All right, the order of operations, the focus of our lesson. Before we delve into the order of operations, let's look at the word operations. When I think of the word operation, I think of a doctor and my body's broken and I have to go get operated on, which actually I haven't had to do. I only had my wisdom teeth pulled, and that was an interesting story. But anyhow, an operation is basically just a procedure. It's just an action. And in math, a mathematical operation is just a mathematical action that's done to numbers. You're familiar with these. You've seen these before. Operations are like these: adding, subtracting, multiply, divide. Those are actions that you perform on numbers, and those are just mathematical operations. So a lot of times when we're talking about the order of operations, I think we just memorize order of operations without actually thinking about what it means. So I wanted to take a second and make sure you thought about the word operation. So therefore, the order of operations is just the correct order to perform your mathematical actions. You know, do you add first? Do you subtract first? Multiply? You know, what do you do first? What do you do second? The order of operations tells you. I think we've all seen this lovely little phrase, and if you haven't, well, you are in for a treat. It says, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." And she's not really my aunt, but wow, check out the resemblance. Maybe we are like related somewhere way back in the bloodlines, because we kind of look like each other a little bit here. Although I'm a little bit more confused than she is. She's a little bit more obstinate, I think, but I'm more confused. Anyhow, you will notice on your notes that you have this chart already written, so you don't have to do any writing. The P stands for parentheses and grouping symbols. The E stands for exponents and roots. MD is multiply and divide. AS is addition and subtraction. We are only going to be dealing with the grouping symbol P, group, tonight, MD, and AS. That's all we're going to be dealing with so far in the lesson. We'll get to exponents a little bit later after we've practiced with exponents. Another graphic that I found was from the website aimhigheducational.com, and this lady, I forget her name, I'm sorry, she has a website that she consults and helps, especially special education types of environments, and I really liked this graphic here, how she set that up. She gave you the please, she gave you the parentheses and grouping symbols, and then she actually wrote the symbol. You know, excuse, exponent, here's the symbol. And then she also added something that I thought was rather interesting. She says, from left to right. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally for looking too rough. And this from left to right is very important because we're going to be talking about that in fact, on the next slide. A lot of times people make mistakes because of the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally little riddle. If we go back, you'll notice that I have MD on the same level here and AS on the same level. I don't go please excuse my dear Aunt Sally like I was taught, because that's confusing. You think, well, oh gosh, I have to do multiply before divide. And that's not the case. You actually do multiply and divide at the same time. And I'll give you an example by what I mean by that with our current slide. An inverse operation is just an opposite operation. So inverse means opposite or reverse. So you can see here just by the chart how it's grouped, which ones might be inverse with each other. Multiply is the inverse of divide. Addition is the inverse of subtraction. And like I said before, inverse operations are done together. So what that means is, if you have the expression 8 times 4 divided by 2, you'll notice that multiply comes first. And this one probably most people wouldn't mess up. Please excuse my dear, so M comes before D. Most people would probably do this first. They would say, oh, well, 8 times 4, that's 32. 32 divided by 2 is 16. Now the tricky one is the next one, and let me clear off my writing. The tricky one is this next one. We've got division before multiply. So we've got dear before my. And a lot of times students would try and do this 4 times 2 first because of the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which is supposed to help you, but in this case it's kind of confusing you. So what we do, since multiply and divide are the same level, we take whichever one comes first. And since in this case the division came first, we have to do that first. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. And I can rewrite that one like this up here. 8 times 4 was 32 divided by 2 equals 16. You'll find the same thing for the other inverse operations of add and subtract. Here, this one is probably one that's not missed. 8 plus 3 is 11. 11 minus 4 equals 7. That's the easy one. The next one is the one that might confuse people. Since the subtract is coming before the add, Sally is coming before Aunt, a lot of students might want to try and do the adding first, and that's not the correct way to do it. So first we would have to do the 8 minus 3 because it came first from left to right. So the high educational consultant lady, she said, you know, for looking too rough, from left to right. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 plus 4 equals 9. Okay, go ahead and start with the practice. I'm going to stop right here for another break. That should give you a little bit of time to practice, and I will go over these in the next segment.